Louisville's Metro government announced a $12 million settlement with the family of Breonna Taylor, who was killed during a botched police raid back in March.
While we await a decision from Attorney General Daniel Cameron on whether or not charges will be filed in this case, my administration is not waiting to move ahead with needed reforms to prevent a tragedy like this from ever happening again.
Aside from the payout, which is easily the largest in the city's history, the city also agreed to a list of a dozen police reforms, which according to the family's lawyer are meant to help prevent incidents like the one that led to Taylor's death. The reforms feature several changes to how the Louisville Metro Police Department goes about obtaining and executing search warrants, including a requirement that all search warrants be reviewed and approved by a commanding officer in addition to a judge. The city has also agreed to create a better system for flagging problematic officers, and to get rid of an exception that allowed it to close investigations into officers after they retired or resigned from the police department. As part of the agreement, Louisville will take several steps to improve relations between police officers and the communities they serve as well, including offering housing credits to officers who live in the city and hiring social workers to assist with certain police duties. Sam Aguiar, who represents Taylor's family, told Vice News that he's still frustrated with how his client's case has been handled. He pointed to how long it's taken for the city to respond and how little information has been shared with the public. But he said he's still encouraged by the city's willingness to commit to reforms. When asked what's next, Aguiar responded, "Arrest the damn officers." The settlement is separate from the criminal investigation into Taylor's death, which is being handled by Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron's office and has been the focus of the protest in Louisville.
Breonna Taylor! Breonna Taylor!
Cameron hasn't given a timetable for an announcement, but according to multiple sources, the Attorney General has begun presenting evidence to a grand jury, and a decision is expected as early as next week.
Roberto Ferdman joins me now. Roberto, you just reported on how a decision can come as early as next week. So one big question, does this settlement have any admission of wrongdoing on behalf of police?
Settlements like this pretty much never include admissions of wrongdoing. And in this case, it's no different. The city, the police department, they have not admitted to any wrongdoing as part of this settlement. What they have done is pay the family a lot of money, or agree to, and commit to a list of police reforms. I think that it would be silly to not take away from this settlement that the city is kind of like implicitly admitting some wrongdoing. But I think it's also important to view this as kind of an act of pursuing like PR or goodwill amongst the public. They're showing that they want to at least make some changes as a result of this, and they want to give the family some money.
$12 million for the family is a lot of money, and just as big is sort of the public policy changes that came along with the settlement. That seems kind of unique, right?
It's not unheard of for a city or a police department to commit to a certain type of public policy reform as part of a settlement, but this is a list of about a dozen policy reforms for the police department. That doesn't usually happen, and on top of that, this is a $12 million settlement. It's the most in Louisville's history. It's the most by almost $4 million.
Right. And so much of what your reporting has done is uncovered things that the police have either tried to keep from the public or otherwise hid. So my question here is, like, does this settlement make it any easier, or does it make it harder to learn what actually happened the night Breonna Taylor was killed?
The people that I've spoken with have in fact talked about it in kind of the reverse order. So said to me that one might be able to take away from the city agreeing to settlement, this large agreeing to all these reforms, that some of the information that has not been shared with the public, it might not be very flattering for the city or for the police department. But this doesn't effectively change the sharing or release of that information. That information, stuff like officer interviews, any body cameras that exist from officers who showed up to the scene after the raid, those are being held because of the criminal investigation that's being conducted by the Attorney General's office. And until an announcement is made by the Attorney General about that investigation, none of this stuff is going to be shared with the public, and none of this stuff is at least supposed to be shared with reporters. So that's the kind of target that people should have their eye on. It's certainly one that reporters like myself are looking at.
Roberto, thank you and your whole team for all the reporting you guys have done. You can catch more of it at vice.com.